Welcome to Light on Journeys, the podcast where passion meets purpose. Join us as we illuminate the inspiring paths of extraordinary individuals who dared to follow their dreams and turn their passions into reality. From overcoming challenges to celebrating triumphs, every episode is a journey of discovery, growth, and connection. Get ready to be inspired to embark on your own adventure. This is Light on Journeys, where we shine a light on the stories that ignite the soul. My guest today is Johnny Rehm, and he is an ultra runner and a mountain biker. And I want to find out what drives a person to push their bodies to such an extreme edge. So Johnny, welcome.
Thank you, Kathy, for having me.
Ultra running and mountain biking, these are not something you can pick up and start them. You got to start somewhere. But ultra running is something that you have to slowly get yourself there. And it's something where you really push yourself to do. Am I right in that?
Yes, very right. I knew when I first started that I wanted to run 100 miles someday. I didn't know if it was possible, but I wanted to do it.
Okay. So you like a challenge?
Yeah.
Okay. So generally, and I know, like, I've been around athletes my whole life. I've interviewed a lot of athletes, and generally for somebody that likes this sort of, to push their bodies to this extreme, there's generally something behind that. There's a pushing force, and it's not just, that you're committed. There's something else, because there's times you're really tired. It's easy to quit. So what is it that really pushed you to go to this extreme?
For lack of a better answer, I'm going to say demons.
Okay. Demons are real things, and they come in a lot of different forms. So what were your demons, if you want to share?
It was a buildup, I think, of you gotta crawl before you can walk, right?
Right.
So, it started with bikes as a kid, and then it turned into a little bit crazier and crazier and crazier. And I don't mean crazy in a bad way. I mean more intense, and then that kind of just evolved into 15-mile outings, and the desire to even wonder what my body could do after, 50K or.
No, I get that. I get that desire to push yourself. How much better can I do this? How much faster can I be at this? How much stronger can I? And it's a good curiosity to have, as long as you're in tune with what your limits are. And a lot of people aren't. But I know, just for me personally, that, I could exercise all day long. I really could, and be happy with that. I could be moving. I could be walking. I could be doing yoga. I could be doing strength training. I can always be pushing myself and be really, really happy with that. But what got me into that sort of mindset was that's how I was working out my traumas.
Exactly.
Yeah. For me, working out is always therapy. Always therapy. I go deep within my soul. And sometimes I don't turn on the first bit of music. I just kind of am moving. And I feel like, how they say the word emotion it's literally in the name. It's emotions in motion. They're moving through you. So it helps me, if I'm moving, to sort through my emotions. So I kind of know you, but I do see a very spiritual and self-reflective person. So does it sort of apply to you as well? Like, is your running therapy for you?
Oh, man. So I will go back to COVID, and maybe a little bit before. I was in school right when that happened, and excuse me, I was getting an associate's degree in counseling, substance abuse counseling, and I was trying to really change my life. And it started with walking and just getting out of the house, and then it turned into back to the old kind of biking. And I'll fast forward a little bit and say that it did turn into my therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and that when when it came down like to it was better than any prescription, any drug,
Yeah.
anything I've ever done to myself, and it's helped me heal from a lot more than that it ever has as well. This whole thing started with me trying to quit cigarettes, and I was trying to really quit the SSRI that I was taking. I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that. That's something you need to talk to your doctor about, because that's what I did.
Yeah.
And we decided that it was time for me to taper off, and it just wasn't working for me anymore. So I quit smoking, I quit the SSRI, and I picked up a mountain bike. And I turned that desire for smoking and that buzz in my head into sweat, really.
Yeah.
Into sweat. I would look for the biggest hills that I could find and just climb them until I was destroyed.
Yeah. And I think that's where people have where they have the disconnect from it. I understand where you're going with it, but when you say like, I push myself to I'm destroyed, a lot of people hear that and they think this is kind of destructive.
And, but so was smoking cigarettes, and I had to push hard to
Mm-hmm.
want to quit. I had to make myself want to quit.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I just liked being a person that smoked cigarettes, and that kind of thinking made it really hard to quit.
It's who you associate yourself as. So you have to sort of create a new identity. So you just engross yourself in this new thing until you feel like that's the new you, right? And
right. I have to make a new me.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's kind of a weird thing. It's sort of that saying that when you lose someone, you grieve. If the more you loved them, the deeper the grief.
Oh, what was that? That was
I sent that to you when your mother passed, I think. I can't forget. I can't remember who said that, but
it's Diana that said that grief is the price we pay for love.
Yeah, it is. And so this is similar to that, in that the more you identify as something or with something, the harder it's going to be for you to get past it. It's going to require more of you. So I get it. That makes sense. So your need for the cigarette was so great that you needed to push yourself to this limit to get there, to get past it. And now you have found there's a new sort of high to be had in running. And I totally get that, because when I work out, it's not a high, it's a euphoria. It's a good source of dopamine. And it just makes me feel good in my body.
Yeah. It's a good cope. It's a good coping. It's been my therapy for a while. Yeah.
I sort of think that's part of the problem with a lot of people today is they don't know how to feel in their body, and they don't know how to connect to it, and they don't know how to work out their issues through the use of it. And instead, they're finding other ways to do that, which never works out really well. All right, so I have some questions for you, and I want to kind of explore your passions here. So what lights you up or brings you the most joy in your life? And I just want to see where your passion works into that.
Oh, the most joy. Being better than I was yesterday.
That's
any
good.
way that I can do something better or be better or feel better.
Yeah. Expand.
Growing, yes.
Yeah.
Growing for sure.
Okay. When do you feel the most in flow, where time sort of disappears, where you lose time?
I'll talk about that 1/3 run, where a third of my runs are shit.
Yeah.
A third of them are absolutely, it's hard to get out the house. It doesn't feel good the whole run. A third of them are going to be okay. They're just going to be, quick. They might feel good, but they're just going to be okay. And a third of them are going to be in that flow place, that amazing place.
Yeah. It's a cool place. It really is. When you sort of lose track of time and you're just in your zone, whatever that is, it's crazy good. It really is. It's a trip. It's like a time travel trip. It's pretty cool. Okay, so so we went over how you discovered this. It started with your mountain biking, right? As far as the ultra running, and your bike sort of kept breaking down, so you ended up having to walk a long way anyway. Is that how that happened?
There's a funny story. This one time I had really wanted I had that monster on my back for the whole day. And right after work, I finally got a little bit of time and I went way far out. And I was in it. I was in that zone. I was in that place, and my tire exploded, and this old man popped out of nowhere and he handed me a gel, a runner's gel. And
how weird.
It helped me get the 15 or 20 miles back home.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening, and it opened me up to a lot of research. What was it he gave me? I didn't even know what it was he gave me, but it opened me up to what is, and then I was so far out, and I had to carry my bike home, and decided to go for 5 miles instead of 15 on the bike, and it turned into 50 Ks. I've run 4 50 Ks.
Wow, that's awesome. So what is your next goal?
My next goal is 100 miles in October. I'll be doing the Javelina 100. And right now my goal is to get me to the start line. I'm trying real hard to not focus on the race at all. I just want to get prepared at the start line. So
how do you you had to have gotten here or to this point to where you're getting ready to do this 100. Was it gradual? So like you said, it was a 5K, and then are you know, people, if there's somebody listening to this, and let's just say they run 5 miles a day and they're like, okay, I want to run a marathon. Do they need to get a coach, or is there some way they can go about working their way up to that?
My personal experience, this is how I did it. I had a friend that told me he was getting ready to run the Rocky Raccoon 100, and it was the first time I'd ever heard of anybody doing anything like that. That was completely out of my scope of understanding. So I had to do a lot of research after that and see that it was a thing that people ran 100 miles at a time, and normal people would do it. Not like elite athletes, but
wow,
people. And I was seeing some of this stuff on YouTube, to be honest. I watched a Courtney Dauwalter documentary. I believe the one that I saw first was called The Source. And man, she's like the superstar. But to see that other people could do that, really, really piqued my interest and my friend. So I had somebody that knew a little bit. He's been running his whole life, and I did a ladder. I climbed the ladder. I started at a 5K in December, not running a single bit before that, spending a little bit of time on a mountain bike, some time on a bike as a kid. My base isn't much. It straight off the couch, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then a 5K, a 10K in March. Let's see. Where was it? 10K in March, half marathon in April. I did my first 50K in May, and I did not finish that first 50K. It was really hard. There was a tornado in the middle of the hailstorm that happened for 3 hours, and it was really hard.
Yeah, sounds like it.
A lot of things I wasn't expecting. So I learned from that, and I did another 50K in July. I did a 60K I did a 42K in September in the Superstitious Mountains. And that was the hardest one to that date that I had done in my life. That was the hardest thing I have ever done. That marathon in the mountains,
Yeah.
marathon is 42K. And, but the vert on it was really hard. And I got through and I healed, and I did another one in January, a 60K.
So when you're healing after these things, how long do you give yourself off?
That hard one that I talked about, I did not, I was unable to really run for almost a month.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was taking it easy for that long, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you got to recover, right? You have to allow those bones and those muscles to recover, for sure. So
a lot of damage.
Yeah.
A lot of trauma.
And do you ever worry about feeling that damage as you get older? Because just for me, like, I'm 54, I've just started to feel the use of my body. The constant use over the years, like a shoulder, which in a few years I'll probably have to have shoulder surgery. I'll probably have to have a knee replacement. There's things that I'm starting to notice. But I wonder, with that type of running, is there anything that worries you about it?
No.
No?
No, I do have a thought about that. I know that everybody says that you be grateful you can run, and a lot of people use their why as I'm going to run for somebody who can't. I know that I won't be able to do this forever, and I hope that when I get to the place where maybe running isn't the best thing for me physically, that a mountain bike might, a road bike might,
or you walk instead. I mean, just keep moving, right?
Right. I think it's just about keeping moving. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think the joy and the relief and release that I get from what I can still do daily is the fear of what maybe isn't going to hold me back. Right. Yeah. It's worth the chance. And to me, it's like I said, when we started this movement, people just, I read a study one time about these people who were struggling with depression, and there was a group that they just let deal with their depression however they felt best. And then there was a group that they asked to go for so many mile walk every day outside. And the people that went outside had a huge, and walked and stayed moving and moved around, had a huge improvement in their depression than the ones who didn't. So sitting sedentary and not going outside and not moving your body really, really does make a difference in your quality of life and your mental health, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I always, people are like, well, what do I need to do? I'm just depressed. I need to move. I need to lose weight. And I'm like, just start moving. First, just start moving. Give yourself a 2-mile walk every day. Do that for a month. Get a better mindset before you go into thinking you need to create all these crazy changes in your life. First, create the mindset.
See it first. I'm a big believer in see it first. See it. If you can see it, it can happen.
Yeah. Get yourself a good visual and just move that body, move that energy around. You're going to be stuck in your energy if it doesn't have a way to move, and that requires literal movement, whatever that may be. See if you can get up and move around. So do you see yourself continuing with the ultra running or the marathon running from this point forward? I mean, competing?
I have another race that I just signed up for, a 60K in Colorado Springs called the Rehm Party. And then October is my 100. And I'm really just, I look at it in terms of hours per week that I'm running, that I'm able to run. And yeah, I just running with it.
Running with it, literally. Yeah. Do you feel like, I know for some of these people that have these sorts of passions too, they're very all consuming. So are you leaving room for life balance in there?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
I pay attention to my food. I don't eat out.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in new recipes, and I believe my social life probably suffers because of the running, but I get my joy out of my run, so
right.
I'm okay with that. The balance is not always easy. I get my joy from running, and I can say that there's probably a little bit of imbalance sometimes, but the passion, the joy is a fair trade sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah, if it's really what you love, and as long as you're taking care of yourself, and you have social interaction, I'm sure,
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone that's trying to discover their own passion? And this is a question that I ask all the guests. So if someone comes up to you and they see how passionate you are about this running, but they can't find their passion, they're like, I don't know what it is that I love to do so much. Do you have advice for them?
For those that are having a hard time with it, I would say treat it as a child. There's the newborn phase, there's the toddler phase, there's the growing up. We got to crawl before we can walk. I had to walk before I could run. Mm-hmm. And finding the thing is about curiosity. I think if we're looking for what our thing is, we have to be curious.
Yeah, you have to be willing to try things, right? Because if you don't know what your passion is, it's probably because you really haven't done it yet. Because when you do something, if it lights you up, you're like, oh man, that was great. And if you get that feeling, explore that thing a little bit more and see if it really resonates with you. Because if it does, then you're gonna want to explore it deeper.
And I know they change. I have gone from, I did Tai Chi. I did a lot of fire spinning. I've done a lot of different things that have brought me joy, and I do them until, I don't know. I think I still spin. I still spin for fun. I don't do it on the same stage I used to do it on.
I think they lead you to a new part of yourself. Like you'll find a passion and you'll be all in and you'll learn a lot about it, and that's growth. But it seems like it opens the door for something else. I'm somebody that always has something going on, like some sort of passion and even side hustle going on, because I'm crazy curious about so many things. It's hard for me to keep a focus sometimes.
I think it starts with curiosity, and you find a bunch of little things that you love to do
and do them.
And do them.
Yeah,
and
do. Check them out.
About them.
That's right. Okay, what do you wish more people knew or understood about you? It's a hard question.
More people understood about me. The answer that comes to my mind is nothing. I'm
okay.
But that sounds kind of mean. I don't I'm working on it.
And maybe it's a question to come back to at another time, right?
I'm working on it.
And it's kind of, it's sort of a deep question, you know, and when I read it, I'm like, well, if you turn the table on me, what would I wish more people understood about me? There's a lot more to me than what people see on social media. I really am, I'm more private than you think I am. I share with people a lot of both positive and negative things, but my most personal, you know, my family, my loved ones, that's mine, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not as open as it appears that I am. I have a whole private life, you know?
I hear that.
Yeah.
I think I'm on a mission right now looking for my private life. I've been through a lot and I get to start over. I don't really have to worry about a lot of what's going on in the outside world. I hate what's happening out there, but my focus is inside right now. And
yeah, me too. And it kind of has to be, otherwise, you know, you just can't do it. You know, you got to kind of stay in your own lane and live the life as best you can, because if you get caught up in what's going on out there, you're not living, you're just part of it.
Part of it.
Yeah. And I choose to stand outside of it. I see it. I know what's going on to a degree, but you know, you've got to not let it consume you. And if it requires running 100 miles, run 100 miles. You know, if you need to do yoga for 4 hours, do yoga for 4 hours. I do believe going inward and getting real familiar with that first is real important. And that could take years sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no time limit on that at all. Okay. So are there any skills or habits? More like, is there a discipline you've learned through this running? Like, just don't give up, push through. You know, what comes to mind when I ask you, what have you brought to your toolbox with this discipline?
That when I push through it, it always feels good. That even though it feels like shit right now and I don't want to do it, or every part of my brain is telling, because that's what it is. It's the mental part.
Mm-hmm.
Every part of me is telling me to sit back down. We're not running today. We're going to take a day off.
Yeah.
The more I fight through that, the better my run is.
So would you say endurance running is mind over matter?
Definitely. Mind over matter.
Yeah.
Definitely. 90% mental, 10% physical.
Wow. So you're kind of battling yourself the whole way. It's not just the miles. You're battling yourself the whole way.
The brain loves to take shortcuts. It's amazing how the thing I have seen over and over is myself tell me to stop any way possible. any way possible, any shortcut, any shorter time. My brain is trying to figure out a way to not do what I said I'm out to do. And
Right.
doing that thing has always brought me more joy than anything else.
Yeah, it's sort of like you get to beat yourself in a way, like the higher self won out. The higher self won out, baby. We made it. We got that 100 miles. And yeah, I mean, I get that too. I mean, there's, you have to sort of look at the end goal, and you're out, you know, when you're battling your mind, you're like, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Keep going.
And the whole time your mind is saying, please stop.
Yeah, you're killing us. You're killing us. But you're not. You're making it. You're conditioned for it. Okay.
Amazing what our bodies are able to go through. We're way stronger than we ever thought we were. All of us are way stronger than we ever thought we were.
We definitely are. We're meant to be. Our bodies are meant to be put under a certain level of physical stress, and I do believe that's another thing that's wrong as a whole, is we don't put our bodies under a lot of physical stress any longer. Everything's so convenient that we're sort of losing a lot of our physical abilities, and we're so used to everything being at hand, you know, where we just go pick it up or it's instantly made, that we don't even have to worry about anything, right? So we're just not using the body and even the mind like we should. But you know as well as I do, for these types of things too, how important the diet is.
Oh, nutrition has been life-changing. The number one thing in my life that has changed the most.
So what does a runner like you, and I know it's different per runner, but let's just say for you, what does a day in your diet look like?
I'm carb heavy, carb centered, I would say, carb centered. Potatoes, rice, pastas, lots of steaks and proteins and all of that right now. I see diets are different for people, and I'm not any kind of dietitian or nutritionist. I know what works for me, and I'm healthy, carb centered, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, you need that fuel, right? And I'm sure your diet right before race day is a lot different than, you know, a month out.
My last one I did, I paid extra attention to the carb load, and I made that for 3-4 days before the race. And my healing time was by far the fastest of all of them. Yeah,
nutrition's so important. It is so important. And the way, if you're really in tune with it, whatever you're wanting of your body, what you're eating in it and putting in it makes such a difference. You know, it's crazy. And it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're trying to muscle gain, you know, you're going to want more protein. If you're going to run, you're going to need those carbs to help you, you know, but you still got to have a balance of protein in there to build the muscle. So it's a science, but for me, it's a cool thing to explore.
It's where I've learned the most, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. It is. And I find it fascinating, but I heard you say one thing that I understand and agree with. I don't eat out much anymore.
Yeah, no, that's the first thing that had to go. That's the first thing that had to go.
I have found one restaurant that Doug and I will go to occasionally, and they've got it's called, it's like Raw and Clean, the Freshie or something like that. But it's just roasted vegetables with hummus, basically. And that I trust, but it's just hard. You don't know what you're eating. You don't know if it's clean. I mean, you just don't know. So you analyze the whole meal, you wonder about it, and then you don't really enjoy it. And then you've spent a ton of money at this restaurant. And I'm just like, forget it. I'm going to go home and eat, make it myself.
Exactly. That right there is the key, is I could go home and make it myself and So the fast food part of that is the first thing that had to go. I will clarify, the junk food
Yeah.
is the first thing that had to go. I still indulge in sodas, but not anything like I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about, I can make this at home most of the time.
Yeah. And you know what you're getting. You know the grade of meat. You got eggs, all those things that matter to matters to me. And then there also to me is this thing about having a personal connection to the food you consume. So if you actually make that food, and this is something I've mentioned this before in a podcast, and some people think it's a little too particular, but being that I work with energy a lot with Reiki and things like that, I don't know who's fixing my food.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And if they're a nasty individual, and I don't mean nasty like hygiene, that matters too, but I just mean if they're angry, just while they're cooking my food, just hating the world. And to me, I'm like, I don't want to eat that.
I have had bad feelings about my food and thrown it straight out the window immediately after.
Yeah.
Taking bites.
Yeah. I'm just like, and I know, a lot of people are like, give me a break. And I'm like, no, I mean, it matters to me if I look at that and I don't know, it's just easier because I enjoy cooking. And when I'm in the kitchen, I've usually got some good music on and I've got my food out and we're all having a good time, and when I eat it, I'm happy that I've made it. So there's a connection there. And there's also this kind of, this thing that happens like when you're cutting up your onion or you're peeling your potato, your visual and your smell is sort of preparing your digestive system for what you're about to eat. Mm. So then when you eat it, your body already knows what it's getting and it actually digests with a little bit more ease. But when you just go out and order food and it just is plopped down in front of you and then you immediately start eating, you miss the visual sensory, you miss the smell sensory, you miss the hand, the skin sensory of fixing the food. It's a thing, but I know a lot of people don't think about that, but I know you have to watch what you eat in order to have that kind of energy.
Yeah, I think in even paying attention to my diet, I've become more and more in tune with my nutrition, and it's like a spiral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a cool spiral to go down. It's pretty cool. All right, so before we close, is there anything you want to share about this journey, how it's helped you, what you've been through with it, anything else?
I will say that it's been the most beneficial thing in my life.
Awesome.
At this point.
Yeah.
I it's helped me deal with horrible grief and great joy. It's helped me deal with everything in between.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the physical part of running or if it's the passion that I'm doing, in the curiosity and the passion and the love of doing something that's been more helpful, but together I'm a pretty happy guy.
That's awesome. And it's something you were meant to do, obviously. So, yeah, thank you for having your passion and thank you for being a counselor to people who need it. We need more of those. Well, thank you for sharing with us today. I really, really, really appreciate it. And before we end this podcast, I did want to tell everybody how I sort of connected to you. And I told this at the beginning when we talked earlier, but I didn't get it on tape. So this was right after COVID, and I had been through sort of my own journey, and I had been drinking more than I wanted to admit. And in doing so, there was just a lot of things that I wasn't happy with about myself and my health. And I was made light of my drinking a lot on Facebook through memes and just silly stuff that they put out there. And, but still trying to sell myself as this fitness and wellness person, and thought I was. And you sent me a private message one day, and you just simply asked me, you put it like, I like you, but I have a hard time believing you to be a spiritual person when you drink a lot and you're always posting about drinking.
Yeah, alcohol.
Yeah.
The great spirit.
Yeah. And it stopped me in my tracks. It really did. I read that message because I had been inside. I knew I needed to give this up. And I had tried a few times before and just never stuck it out. And when I read that, it was like, people see you. They see you. They see who you are. And I've always wanted to be what I say I am. I mean, that's always been really, really important to me.
Right.
And after I read that, I thought, I am not being authentic to who I am trying to present myself to be. And I quit drinking, right? I mean, right then.
Right. That tickles my soul. You know, I have my own difficulties with alcohol. I haven't had a drink in about 10 years, but I've had difficulties with other things.
Yeah.
Since it's just been a crawl, and that tickles my heart.
Yeah. It was such a wake up call and such a like, check this out, you know. And at first I thought, well, how dare you?
I can feel it.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh no, you know, I got to be honest here. This is true. And I quit, and it's been about 3 years actually. But you know, once I got over the initial 6 months of not drinking, I haven't missed that at all.
Yeah.
It's a thief. It's a thief.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one for sure.
It is. And everybody will find their own way in their own time. But you were my wake-up call, so I wanted to give you a public shout-out for that. And just keep being you and keep being honest, because your honesty for me really changed my life.
Well, thank you.
All right. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And join us next time. Bye, everybody.